Hi, I'm ML Linguist. This video is intended to be an extra one between regularly scheduled content made for problem walkthrough requests submitted by viewers like yourselves. I'll link the form to request problem walkthroughs from any and all linguistics Olympiads in both the description and the pinned comment. I'm trying to get through 3 to 4 responses at a time, and today's problems, to be solved in chronological order, are Spare the Rod, Summer Eyes, and Tongue Tangle. I encourage you to have the problems up and try to solve them with me as we go along. Links are in the description. One quick note that I have before we get started is to make sure to look over your form submissions before you submit them. I had a form that was submitted, a problem that was submitted that didn't seem to exist, like I wasn't able to find it on the NACLO website, so please make sure that you are looking at the name of the problem so that I can find it accordingly. The first problem we're going over in this video is Spare the Rod. It's from NACLO 2008 and it's problem D in that packet. It was requested by Arjun Ram 7731 in the comments, so thank you for the request. Let's begin. An excerpt from a well-known text is shown below. It is in 2 languages, X and Y, that are closely linguistically related to each other and also to English. However, the 2 versions are not perfect translations of one another. Awesome. So my knee-jerk reaction, obviously, is to immediately jump to the text and see what does it look like, what's happening, but I'm going to encourage you to avoid doing that immediately and jump immediately to the questions so that you know exactly what you're looking for when you are solving the problem. So let's go to D1. Translate sentences X1 and X2 into grammatical English using your own words and word order. So this is a translation problem and we have to use our own words. This is going to take a much deeper understanding of this text to carry out. So let's read what the other problem is. Align the 8 sentences in text Y with the 6 sentences in text X by content. Which 2 sentences in Y remain unaligned? So since the 2 languages are linguistically related to each other, number 1, we know we shouldn't be looking to translate every word exactly, especially because they are not perfect translations of one another, and given the clear difference in sentence count. So I feel like D2 would be a good place to start because we can gain a better understanding of the text while also knocking out one of the problems in this NACLO problem, Spare the Rod. So let's begin. Okay, so let's start our work on D2. I'm going to pull out my highlighter. You won't get a highlighter on in the competition, but you can just use a pencil, or I believe that like some testing centers let you take in a pen. So yeah. So immediately off the bat, we can start reading our text, and we find that X1 and X2, all of these sentences in X actually, are alternating between 2 what seems to be names, right? So this seems to be depicting a dialogue to me, and I hope you agree, right? So let's write that down, that we think it's depicting a dialogue. Okay? So that's just noticing something that we noticed. Okay? Let's jump to language Y and see if we can figure out the structure, because you notice that it's not the same colon over here, like name followed by a colon, name followed by a colon. Instead, it's structured differently. So let's see if we can pinpoint what the characters are, who the characters are in language Y, and what they're saying. So immediately we find Rodette, right? And from this sentence, we can see that the basic structure of language Y is what the character is saying over here, then a comma, and then what I'm assuming is a verb that means said, and then the name of the character or the noun, right? So that would likely mean that language Y is structured object, verb, subject, right? Whereas language X, I'm not sure, this looks like it is kind of like a script in a play. So I don't know if we can say anything about the structure of the language from this, but we definitely can figure out that the second main character, or more in language Y, is Olven. Now, one interesting thing to note here is that, let me erase this so that we have a little bit more space. One interesting thing to note here is that sa and svarte are different conjugations, I'm assuming, of the word said. So, with that being said, Rodette and Olven are probably either, there's a discrepancy between the two. So Rodette might be one person and Olven might be multiple people. Rodette might be a person, Olven might be an object or an animal. So it's important to notice little differences like these. So we'll just say R is not equal to M/U. So that's just our way of keeping track of the fact that these are two different characters. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the problem. Let's move on to actually solving the problem. We've got a basic understanding of how the texts are structured. So let's move on to finding Y1. What does Y1 match with, right? So the beginning part, what they're saying is here. Sa store, right? Store. Let's see over here. Men mormor varfor har du sa stora ogon. I'm probably butchering it like crazy, but let's see. We've got stora again. We've got sa store and sa stora, right? So I think it's safe to assume that Y1 matches with X1. Awesome. And over here, we can say Sastor or Duhar. So obviously we get more from this sentence, these two sentences, about the structure of the language and how it differs among the two, because you'll notice that har, do, and duhar, right? So there's different orders, but they mean the same in content. Okay, so let's focus on Y2. I'm going to switch to orange. Oop, that's not the highlighter. Let's switch to Y2. And orange, Y2. Okay. So this is mormor or Ulven saying that bara for at jag skal se deg batre mit barn, right? So det for the jeg skal. Okay, there we go. We found something that sounds similar. So if you, this is another strategy that you can use, that I like to use, is just reading it aloud in my head. So if it sounds kind of similar, especially for these problems, if it sounds kind of similar, it might lead you down a path that could be right. So, yes. Dig batre and deg bedre. There we go. So we've got two matches over here. I think it's safe to say that we can map x2 to y2. That's not. Okay, x2 to y2. Okay, next we're going to work on y. We're going to do y3. Okay, so Men mormor, varfor har du sa stora oron. So, okay. Now we're noticing something else about these ending words. So it's saying ogon, oron, right? Let's see what it says over there. It says oron, ogon, right? Sastor oine duhar bestimor, right? Bestimor is repeated, sastor is repeated, oine and orer is different. So we actually might have started on the wrong track, right? And this is good that we're having an example of this happening in a video, because as you can see, it says oine there, right? Or rare, right? So there's OR here. And obviously this is all based off assumption and patterns that you notice. So let's make Y1 map to X3 and Y3 map to X1 based off this new kind of, I guess, breakthrough that we've had. This new fact that we found. Okay. Next sentence is Y4. We're gonna go back to orange for this one, just to differentiate. So Y4. Let's start with X4. More. Det bara for att jag ska ora dig bättre, mitt barn. Right? Det för dig jag ska kunna se dig bättre, svarte oven. Right? Det för dig is repeated throughout. Jag ska is also repeated throughout. Kunna is also repeated throughout. Let me use a laser pointer so y'all can see where I'm pointing. So det is repeated, for dig is repeated, jag ska is repeated, kunna is repeated, dig bättre is also repeated. So it's just these words that we're finding here. Let me use a different color. It's just these words that we're finding here and here and here and here, right? So we just have to match those two together. Alright, so now that we've made this breakthrough, or this like finding, we can, let me change the color of my pen, we can look at all of these words that we've highlighted in purple, which we cannot read. So let me underline them instead. That's what it's gonna. Right. So we can look at these words, and then we can look at the corresponding words in the more sentences. So we've got dig batres is the same, jag ska is the same. So se changes, ora changes, kuna, ata up, dig, right? Those change. So I'm pretty sure we have a misalignment somewhere in this section, but we know that se and se match. So X2 and Y4 should match. So that means that this one's wrong. That's okay, though. So we've got X2 and Y4. Next, what do we have? Let's see. Ora, ore, that matches up. Y2 and X4. So, there we go. We've got half of the Y sentences matched up. Okay. Let's cross off what we've got already. So we got X1, we've got X2, we've got X3, and we've got X4. So we only have X5 and X6 left, and we've got Y1, Y2, y3, and y4. Okay? So you'll notice that in x6, it ends differently, right? And it seems to stay the same over here. Det for de jeg skal kunne etter deg bedre. Det for de jeg skal kunne klemme deg bedre, svarte Ove, right? So this seems like something that we should note. Over here, we've noted that this ends differently than the other more sentences. Okay, so next, let's move on to y5. Sa står hender du er bestemor sa rådet. So we have ender, right? And let's look at Rodlevan's last sentence. Varför er du sa stora tänder? Right? Tänder is the one that we're looking for. We have ender and tänder. Then this one's sa stor man du är bestemor sa rådet. So clearly, tänder, ender sound similar. Tänder, man don't sound similar. So we can just, based off that assumption, map x5 to y5. Just based off the pattern that we've got. Okay? And so then that means that our last Rodlevan sentence over here, our Rodet sentence, y7, does not have a match. No match. I forgot what the instructions were for that. I think we're just putting no or x or something in there, but if we put an x there, then it could get confusing because x is the other language. So no for y7. So now we only have y6 and y8, and we have to match it to x6. So klemme kuna, ete kuna. Det for de jeg skal kunne klemme deg bedre, svarte Oven. Det for de jeg skal kunne ete deg bedre, svarte Oven. So, at this point, we can probably map x6 to y6 just based off what we've got. And the thing with this is that the thing with all of NACLO problems is that you should be willing to change your answer based off of new information that you find later on in the problem. So this should be like an evolving list, right? So this is our evolving list. This is what we've got so far. But also at the same time, looking at this, if we have this ending thing. Let's just think about it logically. Let's think about it not in terms of the individual words in the sentence, but let's think about it in terms of the structure of like a short story, right? So usually if you have something that you're saying, you'll have the beginning, middle, and end, right? Beginning, middle, and end. Whereas our first knee-jerk reaction, our first response to seeing the words in the sentence was to match x6 to y6, we're forgetting that y8 is our ending sentence, whereas y6 is still part of the middle. So it's more likely for y8 and x6 to be linked up as the end, because we've noticed that the beginning matches up mostly, and therefore the end will probably match up with each other. So I feel like for me personally, you're welcome to keep your answer the same. I think that y6 will not match up with anything, and y7 doesn't match up with anything, and x6 matches up with y8. So at the end of the day, it's just you making arguments to yourself as to what you think or why you think an answer is the way that it is. And if you make a strong enough argument to convince yourself that that is the correct answer, it's likely that that will be the right answer. You just have to be a little bit more harsh on yourself in terms of what could be a right answer and what couldn't be a right answer. Make sure you're really sticking to the rules. Make sure you're like really noting down the patterns that you've found, and obviously there'll be more space on the question paper than just this, but make sure you're really writing down your theories as you come up with them based off the problem. Alright, so I know that we have skipped D1 right now, but I just figured that since D3 and D4 are translation problems where we're doing a table with language X and English, we can translate language like sentences X1 and X2 into English after doing this table, because we'd have an even better understanding of the problem and the text. So I'd recommend having the text open either on a computer or on paper, or just like if you have notes, please refer to those, because there's not enough space on this slide to have the table and the text. And obviously in the NACLO competition, you're going to be doing a lot of flipping. Luckily though, at least in the testing center that I was in, we didn't need to, the problem packet wasn't stapled, so we didn't need to rip it apart, or like we didn't need to remove the staple or flip back and forth a lot. So we could just separate the pages and look at it individually. So let's jump into it. Sa, we found to be sa as well. Store, we found to be stora. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that actually. Yeah, we found to be stora. Orer, we found to be oron. So they're there, O-R-O-N. For do, we found it to be, I'm pretty sure it just means do. I'm pretty sure we found it to be do as well. So do. Har, I'm pretty sure we found the same thing. It's just same thing. Bestimor, we did not check that, so we can actually go back to the previous slide. Or maybe in the next slide I'll just include some text so that we can go back and forth. But yeah, sa again doesn't have one. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure sa in language Y we defined it as said previously, so we can actually write that over here, said, because it was like said rodet, so sa rodet. And then also over here, svarte was also said. Svarte is how we defined it, and that was represented in language X as just a colon, so it was this person, colon this, whereas in language Y it was this, comma, sa, this, or svarte, the person, right? Okay. I'm going to erase that so that we have more space. Next we have rodet. We know this is rodlavan. How do I spell rodlavan? Let me just look at my notes. Rodlavan. Got it. Rodlavan. Got it. Okay. Det, we said, was det as well, I'm pretty sure. Same thing. So let's put that in. D-E-T. That's not optimal. D-E-T. Okay. Air we didn't talk about. But if you look at the text, it says, for more, it says det ar bara for at jag skal. That's in X2. And then for Y2, or for what we mapped X2 to, which was Y4, it says det for the jag skal. So air and R seem to be the same. So let's go back over here and say R. So this is A-R with the two dots on the top. Okay. So again, jag and here, I should put my laser pointer. Yeg skal, jag skal. That's one thing that we noticed. Jag skal. And then skal was 2 L's in language X. Okay. And then let's see. Okay. So then we have Kune, who's getting confused by the crop table. Kune, I think we mapped it to Kuna. So Kune is in Y4. Yeah, Kune is in Y4. Y4 we mapped to X2. Again, Y4 is det for the jeg skal kunne se deg bedre svarte uven. X2, which is what we mapped it to, says det bara for at jag skal se dig bättre mitt barn. So, actually, there seems to be no direct translation here. At least, no direct one that we can find. So, at least in this sentence. So, yeah. I think, but since we see kuna in X6 for Y8, could be a match. So I would put kuna here for now, and then if we want to change it, we can. We can just put a little marker here to say that we're not confident. Alright, next one. Let's see. Deg bed. I know we skipped this one, but I am noticing the deg bedre, and we had a clear match for dig batre. So let's write those in. We had dig batre, 2 T's, R-E. Dig batre. And then Ulven we know is more in quotes, but more in quotes. Now I'm just realizing they put more in quotes, so it's likely not actually whatever more is. So it's probably something pretending to be more. Right? So Ulven must be the actual thing. And that actually makes more sense when you think about the structured thing that I brought up earlier, where it was sa versus svarte, conjugated differently for different things. So more is probably what Rodlavan or what Rodet believes is Ulven. So Ulven probably doesn't have a direct translation. Yes. There's no more here. So because more was in X1. And just based off the structure of the words, I want to put more next to bestemor. And when you're short on time, it's just, if your gut is telling you to do something, you should just do it. Especially when you're short on time, because it's already been, I think this video is already 29 minutes long. So yeah, I'm taking my time with these problems so that all the thoughts are all out there. Okay, next we have Svarte. It's done. Ulven is done. Oine. So if we look back at the text, where is oine? So it's in Y3. Sa står oine du are bestemor sa rodet, right? And we mapped Y3 to X1. So it's a men more. Varfor are du sastor ogon. So that, again, we mapped out the text to be the language X to have their object at the end, whereas language Y had their object at the beginning, right? So we know oine maps to ogon. Where is that? O-G-O-N. I'm gonna stop putting the accents on there just to speed it up a little bit. For se, we've got, I'm pretty sure it's the same. Se and se. Yeah, if you look at X and Y, se and se are the same. So I'm gonna put se in there. Hender. Right? So, or is hender? I don't know, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation quite a bit. But let's find a sentence with hender in it. Hender is in... Where is hender? Hender is... Hender is in Y5, which we said maps to X5. Men mormor Y4 hadu stora tander. So we can write tander as the translation for that. Yes. Okay. What is that? Okay. T-A-N-D-E-R. Okay. And then for Cleme. Cleme is in Y6, which we said had no match, so it would probably not have a match in language X. For store, which is in... Store is in SEOR in Y7, which has no match. For mun, it's also in Y7, which has no match, or at least we can't figure out what the match is because we don't have enough context. For there, it is in... Where's there? There is in... I cannot seem to find it. There. D-E-R. Is it D-E-R? I'm looking for the wrong... No, it's D-E-R. Okay. Okay, we can skip that. Just for time's sake, let's skip it. Ete, we found in... Which sentence? This is in sentence Y8, which we map to X6. Ata. Ata updig ete. A-T-A. Okay? Awesome. Okay, now we can fill out the rightmost column of the table, what we've all been waiting for. Yeah, and I might need to divide this video up into parts because it is taking quite a while. This video is already at 34 minutes. So, let me know if... I think I'll film this first one in a group of 3, and then y'all can let me know if you like shorter videos explaining each problem individually. Or if you'd like less detail or more detail, it's all up to you. Okay. So let's go back to the top. Sa. So let's think about the repetitive nature of the whole text in both languages. It goes men more. Varfor har du sa stora ogon. We know ogon is a noun. We can assume that varfor means wherefore or why or for what reason. And then we can, because it's related to English, and then we can assume that the first part, men more, this is an X1, is addressing the person more, or the person who claims they're more, and asking them a question, right? So, yeah, so we mapped X1 to Y3, so let's go over here to Y3, let's go to Y3, and we'll see that it says, Sa stor oine du ar bestemor sa rodet, right? Bestemor definitely maps to more. And throughout the text, basically, it's Rod Lavan asking more different things about Mormor's, like, they're asking more about characteristics of them, right? So it's like, I think I might switch the slide to something that shows the text, and then we'll come back to this one. Alright, so I've transferred everything over here, and let's just take a look at the structure of the text in general, as I was mentioning before. We've got Rod Luvan and supposedly more talking to each other. And the structure of the text is as follows. Rod Luvan asks more something, and more responds, right? But when more responds, there's something at the end over here, mitbarn, that doesn't translate into Y2 as well. So I'm assuming mitbarn is like a term of endearment here. This is my theory. Mitbarn is something like my child, my friend. Okay? Next, I don't think meat or barn are words that we're supposed to translate, but just assuming. Okay? Let's go to X1 and X2 equivalents in our Y, which I believe were Y3 and Y4. Again, Rodet is now asking Bestimor a question. No question mark here. So, Sastore one du ar. And then Ulven now is replying, saying, Det for the jeg skal kunne se deg bedre, svarte Ulven. Right? So, just based off the vibe of the conversation, and just based off that, I am getting the vibe, I'm getting the feeling that Ulven is a wolf. And that's because this whole passage, Ulven, this whole text is reminding me of Norwegian. And Ulven means wolf in Norwegian. Right? So, again, NACLO problems are approachable to everybody. It's just that you have to do enough problems, and then you'll just pick up random facts like these that you know Ulven is wolf in Norwegian. And it's just, the more you see it, the easier it gets. So, yeah. I'm going to put Ulven as wolf in the next table, because this is not the table for it. But in the next table, wolf, right? So, let's think about texts, or like well-known texts in English, in language X and language Y, which we're assuming is Norwegian. Let's think about well-known texts that involve a conversation between two people, not two people, a person and a wolf. At least that's what we're assuming. We're assuming Rod Lavan is a person, that involve conversation with two characters, one wolf, who is calling the other person a term of endearment. You immediately go to Little Red Riding Hood. Red Riding Hood. Right? Now, NACLO problems are made for a North American audience. So if you aren't familiar with Little Red Riding Hood, it's probably not an equitable problem for people who aren't familiar with Little Red Riding Hood, who weren't born in the United States or didn't grow up in the United States or in Canada, who weren't born in the US or Canada, like, region. You probably wouldn't be familiar with it. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with it, then that's unfortunate, but I believe this is a story because it's got two characters. If it had three, or if it had four, then I might assume that it could be the Three Little Pigs, but since it's got a wolf, and since it's two people, and also the R's here are, this might be me misconstruing things, but the R's here are strongly pushing me towards saying that Rodette and Rod Levan are Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red, I'm going to say RH for Riding Hood. And now we know how the structure is, because you know how Little Red Riding Hood walks into her grandma's house. So there we go, More Bestimore is grandma, because we know that the wolf is pretending to be the grandma, right? And that's why the More is in quotes too, right? Grandma. Okay, so the structure for Little Red Riding Hood is as follows. It goes, Little Red Riding Hood asks a question like, "Oh, Grandma, why are your eyes so big?" Or, "Why are your teeth so big?" Right? So I believe eyes goes first, right? So we can say Ogon and, where is the thing we mapped to X1? We said it was Oine, right? So we can say Ogon and Oine are eyes. Where is that? Not sure. I think it's on the next table, right? But we have Orer and Oron. So, see, that's the thing. There's two main ways that the story is told. It's told, why do you have such big eyes? And then it's also, what, like, your eyes, oh, what is it? Such big eyes you have, right? So we can automatically say sa over here is such, right? Because over here we're asking, or she's asking, "Oh, Grandma, why do you have such big eyes?" Let me use my laser pointer. "Oh, Grandma, why do you have such big eyes?" And then over here she's asking, "Such big eyes you have, Grandma." So it's not a question, actually. It's just a statement where Rodette, Rod Levan, or Little Red Riding Hood is asking the wolf why it has such big eyes. So, store, we're assuming it's going to be big. Okay? Oran, Orer. So, I'm pretty sure it goes eyes, teeth, ears. So there's eyes, ears, teeth, and then hands, I'm pretty sure. That was a structure. It's been a long time since I've listened to Little Red Riding Hood. So we've got... So we start with Y1 that says... Let's say we're going with Ogon, and Oine is, I'm going to say Ogon is eyes. I'm going to say Orer or Oron is ears. So we know eyes, ears, hands, teeth. Teeth is the last one, I'm pretty sure, right? Because she goes, "Oh, Grandma, why do you have such big eyes? All the better to see you with." "Oh, Grandma, why do you have such big ears? All the better to hear you with." "Oh, Grandma, why do you have such big hands? All the better to, like, hug you with." And then, "Oh, Grandma, why do you have such big teeth?" is at the end, so we can probably work backwards, right? So our final sentence that we marked previously was, let's see. x6 and y8. So we're saying, and what comes before x6? X5, and what comes before y8, y7, but so it seems that actually y6 and y7 we put off over here, which is interesting. Shouldn't it be y5 and y6 because it'll be like grouped together? Yeah, so I guess that could be where we messed up, but let's continue down with our logic here. y6, y7 is off. Limits, right? Det for the jeg skal kunne etter deg bedre, svarte Uven. Det bara for at jeg skal kunne ata opp deg. So I'm pretty sure ata opp deg and etter deg ata opp deg and etter. Ata and etter probably mean eat. And that's on the next slide. So, we can say, what's another thing we can pick from this slide? Oh, det. Here. Grandma, why do you, oh, har du, right? Do you, har du. Or har doesn't seem like do, but do might be you. Okay? Har du sa stora ögon? Yeah. So I would say, I'm going to say har is have, because you say, why have you such big eyes? Yeah. They are, I'm going to say, det is they, right? We're saying that det is they are better for seeing you with, right? How do you, there's no batre on here either, so what other stuff do we have? We have det, air, right? Are, they are better for, oh, we forgot for the, right? So better for seeing you with, we're gonna say for the and for at, so for probably better for, so we're gonna put for at there and then for. Okay, jag or yeg is, so again, seeing is not on there, so they are better they are for jeg skal, right? We're figuring out what those mean. They are better for seeing. We know seeing is over here because she's like, all the better to eat you with, all the better to see you with, all that kind of stuff. So we know seeing is say, but it's not on this line. Yeah, so seeing is say, right? Wow, we're at 50 minutes already. I think I might need to cut this short after this problem. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a part 1. I'm thinking right now that jag is I. Because the grandma, or the wolf, is going, they are better for I to see you with. Or they're better for I shall see you with. I'm thinking skal is shall because of the way it's spelled. And then I'm thinking that jag and yeg are I. Right? And then kuna and kune. Again, over here we have kuna here. Kune is down here, right? Can. I'm pretty sure this is can, right? Because it's the grandma finally is like, they're better for I shall. They're better for I shall can eat you up. Eat up you. Again, this is all like out of order, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint it, but I'm pretty sure this is can because of the way that the word sounds, and then it's also because of its position in the sentence. Yeah, and then we have sa. This is said, right? We've established that it's said already. And then oron, we said our ears up here. Awesome. So we've got this first half of the table. We're going to finish the second half. And then I'm probably going to make this a part 1 of 3. Just because of the amount of time it's taking. Okay, let's get started with the other half of the table. I've already copied over the words so as to not waste any more time. Let's start with dig and deg. So let's go ahead and highlight. Dig is a word that repeats throughout. So we're going to go ahead and highlight the instances where we see the word dig and where we see deg in all of the text. So let's do this. Right. So the important thing here, the most important dig is this one, because again they're saying, the grandma or the wolf is saying, all the better to eat you up with, right? And we know ata, we've already mentioned that ata probably means eat. So let's actually put that in the table right now. So ata, up, I'm assuming is going to be up. So I think it would be logical to say that dig is you. It's a form of you. So all the better to eat you up with, all the better, then that makes sense for the rest of the sentences because the grandma is repeating all the better to see you with, all the better to hear you with, all the better to hug you with or embrace you with, right? So bedre, we've already been assuming that it means better. So let's fill that in. Better. Svarte, we said. We said it would mean said. But it could also mean like answered or replied. So we can put that in. So said / answered / replied. Okay, there's not much space, but we'll make do. We said Olven is wolf. We said oin. Oin matches with ogon, which is eyes. We said that on the last slide. It was eyes. We said se. Where's se? Where is se? So star there. We said. There we go. Se deg bredre. So I think we haven't talked about say yet, but I feel like say is see or hear. Well, I don't think it's here because I think HORE might be here. over here. So because these are all the verbs, right? And okay, let's see, y4 maps to x2, right? So say should be in this here. Yeah. So say is in there as well. So that means it's probably here. And then aura, so HORA probably maps to this. And so we can say C, and then we can say here. And then if Ogon and Oine over here are eyes, it should map, yeah, so perfect. It does map with this, Ogon maps with that. And then we said Oron is ears, so that should be hearing. And we said that, what was the last one? That was, it was the other word for ears, also maps. Alright, and then we said Tander, Ender, I think we said these were hands. Because Ender, this is in between, so I think in the language X text, they just left out hands. They just went eyes, ears, teeth, and then they just ended it at that. So this is hands. Alright, and then since we established that Hender, let me use my laser pointer. Since we established that Hender means hands, Klemme most likely means hug. So let's put hug there. Oh. H-U-G. Okay. And then SCOR over here, store, likely also means large, since it's only used once, right? Mun is, I'm pretty sure, so over here it says Hardusa Stora Tander. Tander, I don't think Tander means hands, actually. It shouldn't be. So I can't seem to be, I'm not able to erase, but let me see if I can erase on the other, on this main thing. Let me erase that. Okay, yeah. So Tander is not hands, I don't think. I don't think it has a direct translation, because Tander should mean like teeth. I'm pretty sure Tander means teeth. So I think mun might be like mouth, or yeah, I think it might be mouth. Because what other body part would you use to eat someone or something? So then there is the last one. There is, let me see. I don't think we've defined that yet, and I can't seem to find it. Yeah, this was the one we skipped. Yeah, well, I'm gonna skip this, and then we'll check in, when we're checking answers, we will see if it's, because it seems like a typo. I don't think we had it there. Air. There's a lot of airs in R. There's air in R, but there's no dare. So, yeah. So that is the end of Spare the Rod. D5, I believe, is the last question, and that's explaining your reasoning. So, for that, D5 and D6 are the last two. And D5 is explaining your reasoning, which we have been doing for the past 59 minutes. And D6 is what can you say about languages X and Y. So languages X and Y are super similar compared to English. So if languages X and Y are like this, and if English is still related to them, but English is like a little further over here comparatively. So X and Y are comparatively closer to each other compared to English down here. Yeah. And then I think that is it for the problem. So I'm going to cut the PowerPoint presentation now, and I will share my screen with the answer key and we can check our answers. So taking a look at the answers, oh man, we forgot D1. But I think we pretty much figured out how to do D1. So I think we're good. And also the video is getting kind of long. So if you'd like me to walk through D1, the logic for D1, let me know in the comments and I can do that. D2, we got everything mostly right. This, if the contestant specified x5 to y5 and unaligned to y7, that also works. That was our answer. So again, like, this is mainly based off of what patterns you recognize. So maybe somebody else recognized this, the y5 and y6 being unaligned, whereas we recognized y7 being unaligned. Yes. And so I checked the table before filming this, and we got pretty much everything right. So if I'm just going to scroll through it slowly, and feel free to pause. And then finally, this is explain your reasoning. I'm going to skim through that. And then again, D6 also says the overlap between it is together. And I guessed correctly that Y is Norwegian. X is apparently Swedish, which is pretty cool. And the reason why they're related to each other is because they're Germanic languages. In the future, I'm hoping to create a video more on linguistics concepts and historical linguistics specifically. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching, and I hope this helps. Parts 2 and 3 will probably be coming out sometime this week. So, stay tuned. Thanks again.